Dear friends, welcome to our channel. We are very excited to share different stories about love and betrayal from around the world with you. Now let's begin today's journey. The hallway light shone on Olivia's tired face as she dragged her suitcase, already rehearsing in her mind how she would renegotiate with Mark. A month-long vacation had refreshed her and given her enough time to think about how to handle this marriage. Her hand reached into her bag for her keys, but she suddenly remembered that Mark might have changed the locks. She tried turning the doorknob, unsurprisingly finding the door locked. She rang the doorbell, adjusted her facial expression, and prepared to face Mark with the calmest demeanor possible. The door opened, but she was greeted by the face of a young woman she didn't recognize. "Hello, can I help you?" Sarah asked politely. Olivia was stunned, thinking she had come to the wrong door. She stepped back to check the apartment number. It was correct. This was the apartment where she and Mark had lived for 3 years. "This is my home. I need to come in," Olivia said, trying to push the door open. Sarah blocked the doorway, her expression becoming serious. "I'm sorry, but this isn't your house. I moved in last week. If you don't leave, I'll have to call the police." "That's impossible," Olivia cried out. "This is my husband's and my home. If you're referring to Mr. Mark, he's already moved out and terminated the lease. This apartment is now rented to me. Please leave, or I really will call the police." Sarah's tone was firm and calm. Olivia stood in the hallway, suddenly feeling dizzy. How could this be? How dare Mark do this? She took out her phone and, with trembling hands, dialed Mark's number. "The number you have dialed is temporarily unavailable." 3 months earlier, on an ordinary Friday in San Francisco, Mark sat at the kitchen island in their apartment, fingers tapping on his laptop keyboard. As a software engineer, Mark maintained a relatively healthy balance between work and life. Though occasionally bringing work home, he always made sure to spend time with Olivia on weekends. Olivia walked out of the bedroom wearing an elegant business suit, ready to attend a marketing summit. As the marketing director of a well-known fashion brand, her career was on the rise. "I might come back late," Olivia said while organizing her documents. "I have an important client to meet," followed by a dinner. Mark looked up and nodded with a smile. "No problem. I've planned a hiking route for tomorrow. I hope you won't be too tired. The weather forecast says tomorrow will be great." Olivia's expression stiffened momentarily. "Oh, tomorrow? I forgot to tell you. I have an emergency meeting tomorrow and need to work overtime." "Another day?" Mark's smile faded a bit, but he quickly adjusted his mood. "All right, another day then. Do you want me to prepare dinner for you?" "No need. There will be a buffet." Olivia hurriedly grabbed her bag and left, not even leaving a goodbye kiss. That was the beginning of all the changes. Initially, Mark didn't pay much attention, understanding the pressure of Olivia's work. However, in the following weeks, Olivia's overtime became increasingly frequent. Weekend dates were repeatedly canceled, and communication between them grew less and less. At the summit, Olivia met Ethan. As an international marketing consultant, Ethan moved between various brands, possessing rich cross-cultural experience and connections. His elegant and charming speech, along with his insights into fashion and art, impressed Olivia. Ethan wasn't simply a con man. He was a complex and contradictory character. He did possess solid professional abilities and industry reputation, but he also habitually used his charm and expertise to gain improper benefits. In his view, this was merely exploiting system loopholes and human weaknesses, not actual crime. After one dinner, Ethan offered to drive Olivia home. In the car, their conversation shifted from professional to personal. "What does your husband do?" Ethan asked, occasionally glancing away from the steering wheel toward Olivia. "Software engineer," Olivia replied, with a hint of subtle dissatisfaction in her tone. "Dealing with code all day. Sounds smart, but perhaps lacking some artistic sense of life," Ethan commented with a smile. "A woman of your taste should be exposed to a more diverse world." Olivia didn't immediately refute Ethan's comments about Mark. Instead, she felt a long-lost sense of being understood and appreciated. Her career was at a critical juncture, and Mark seemed unable to fully understand the pressure and ambition she faced. Although Mark was a considerate husband, communication between them had gradually become superficial and routine. In the following weeks, Olivia and Ethan's business meetings gradually increased, and venues shifted from offices to cafes, restaurants, and finally hotels. Olivia became addicted to the feeling of being with Ethan, being appreciated, understood, and that exciting sense of adventure. She told herself this was just a harmless episode that wouldn't affect her marriage. Mark wasn't unaware of Olivia's changes. She returned home later and later, and even when at home, she was distracted, always smiling at her phone screen. When Mark proposed weekend plans, Olivia always had various excuses. Her emotions also became unpredictable, sometimes overly enthusiastic, sometimes cold and distant. One afternoon, Mark returned home early to retrieve an important document. When he entered the bedroom, he unintentionally saw Olivia's handbag on the bed, slightly open. He had no intention of looking through it, but when he moved the bag, a strange hotel key card slipped out. Mark picked up the card, feeling a tightness in his chest. It wasn't from any hotel they usually visited. An ominous foreboding gripped his heart. Mark hesitated for a moment, ultimately deciding not to confront her immediately. He needed more information. So he put the key card back, took the document, and left. But this discovery planted a seed of doubt in his mind. In the following days, Mark began to pay attention to Olivia's every move. He noticed her phone was always locked tightly, and she would take it into the bathroom when showering. Several times, when Mark approached, she quickly switched her phone screen. The next day, Mark pretended to have business and returned home early, finding Olivia sweetly talking to someone on the phone in the living room. When she saw Mark, her face instantly turned pale. "We need to talk," Mark said calmly, with a slight tremor in his voice. Olivia hung up the phone, trying to act as if nothing had happened. "Talk about what? Why are you home so early today?" "About this." Mark took out the hotel key card. "And your recent behavior." "Olivia, is there something you need to tell me?" Silence spread between them. Olivia's eyes flickered, seemingly weighing various possible responses. Finally, she made a choice that shocked Mark. "Well, since you've already found out." Olivia straightened her back, her tone suddenly becoming self-righteous. "Yes, I've met someone else. But this isn't cheating." "Not cheating," Mark repeated in disbelief. "We have an open marriage," Olivia continued, as if this was an established fact. "You should be grateful I haven't left you yet, so just accept it." Mark felt dizzy, as if standing on the edge of a cliff. "When did we become an open marriage? Was this a decision we made together?" "This is an adult choice, Mark. Modern marriages need more diverse forms." Olivia's tone was full of condescending pity. "I need more than what you can give me. Ethan understands the pressure of my work, appreciates my taste, and shows me a broader world." "So his name is Ethan." Mark's voice was low and calm, though storms were raging inside him. "Since you've already decided, shouldn't we talk properly about our marriage?" "Not now." Olivia picked up her bag and walked straight to the door. "Ethan and I have planned a month-long trip. When I come back, we'll discuss it properly. You need time to calm down and think, to understand this is the best choice for both of us." The sound of the door closing felt like a slap across Mark's face. He stood in the empty living room, feeling a betrayal and humiliation he had never experienced before. That night, Mark experienced an emotional breakdown. He cried, roared, smashed a vase. But by dawn, he dried his tears and began to think about what to do next. He repeatedly recalled Olivia's words, especially the phrase, open marriage. This was entirely her wishful thinking, an excuse she found for her infidelity. Mark realized that this unilateral change to the rules of marriage was itself a great insult to his dignity. Mark called his college friend Jacob. Jacob was not only his most trusted friend, but also an experienced lawyer. "She just left like that? Saying you have an open marriage?" Jacob's voice was filled with disbelief. "Mark, this is complete nonsense. Any change in marriage requires consent from both parties." "I know." Mark's voice was tired but firm. "I need to understand the divorce procedures and my rights, especially regarding the lease and property division." Jacob explained in detail the divorce laws and procedures in California. As a no-fault divorce state, Mark didn't need to prove Olivia's infidelity, but that didn't mean he had no options to protect his interests. "Regarding the apartment," Jacob said, "I need to see your lease. If it's a joint lease, terminating it unilaterally might have legal risks." Mark found a copy of the lease and sent it to Jacob. A few hours later, Jacob called back. "Your lease is indeed joint, but there's a clause stating that if one party moves out and no longer uses it as their primary residence, the other party can choose to terminate the lease or renew it independently. And your lease only has 1 month left. This gave Mark an idea. He could cleanly cut ties at the end of the lease, rather than waiting for Olivia to return and be confused by her words again. In the following weeks, Mark operated like a precision machine, methodically executing his plan. He found an experienced divorce lawyer and filed for divorce. The lawyer told him that given the relatively short duration of the marriage and both parties having stable incomes, property division should be relatively simple. Mark found a new place to live and began quietly organizing his belongings. He notified the landlord that he would not be renewing the lease and helped the landlord find a new tenant, a young lawyer named Sarah who had just moved to San Francisco. Mark didn't destroy or discard any of Olivia's belongings. Instead, he carefully packed them and stored them in a storage company, paying for 3 months in advance. He sent Olivia a formal email detailing his decision and the whereabouts of her belongings, but received no reply. In a coffee shop, Mark met with Jacob and 2 other friends, Nathan and Kevin. They were all Mark's most trusted people who had given him tremendous support during this difficult time. "Are you sure this is what you want?" Nathan asked. "Maybe when she returns, you can sit down and talk properly?" Mark shook his head. "I've decided. She not only betrayed me, but also tried to manipulate me into accepting a relationship model I never agreed to. I can't trust her anymore." "I support you," Kevin said. "Self-esteem is more important than a marriage without trust." Jacob nodded. "From a legal perspective, there's nothing wrong with your approach. And ending it cleanly and decisively is better for both parties." In the 3rd week after Olivia left, Mark moved into his new apartment. It was a small, cozy 1-bedroom place, located near the financial district, closer to his company. On moving day, Nathan, Kevin, and Jacob all came to help, making the process less lonely and painful. On the last day in the old apartment, Mark stood in the empty living room, recalling their shared memories. Those once loving times now seemed so distant. He gently closed the door and handed the keys to the landlord. A week later, Sarah moved into this apartment and began her new life in San Francisco. She had no idea that this apartment once housed a couple whose marriage was falling apart. Meanwhile, Olivia was enjoying the sun and beaches of Barcelona, Spain with Ethan. Ethan had arranged everything for this trip, from luxury hotels to Michelin restaurants and various VIP experiences. Olivia was immersed in this sense of luxury, occasionally thinking of Mark, but quickly distracted by the carefully arranged activities by Ethan. Ethan had both genuine attraction to Olivia and careful calculation. He did appreciate her talent and taste, but also valued her connections and resources in the fashion industry. During the trip, he skillfully guided Olivia to talk about her work and clients, especially those high-end luxury brands. Olivia was completely immersed in this relationship, unaware that Ethan was collecting this information. She firmly believed Mark would accept her terms. After all, he had always been rational and accommodating. In her imagination, she would return and continue her open marriage, enjoying both the stability of family and external stimulation. Until that day, when Sarah opened the door and told her, "This is not your house. Get out, or I'll call the police." Olivia realized she had completely underestimated Mark. Olivia stood outside the apartment like a rain-soaked statue. She repeatedly dialed Mark's phone, but could never get through. Finally, she received a brief text message. "I've moved out and terminated the lease. Your belongings are at the South City Storage Company, with 3 months of fees paid. A lawyer will contact you regarding divorce matters. Please don't contact me again." Olivia suddenly leaned against the wall, feeling dizzy. This couldn't be. How dare Mark do this to her? In her view, this reaction was too extreme. She only needed more personal space and freedom, not to completely end this marriage. Mark should understand her. When she returned, they could formulate a new mode of interaction together. She took a taxi to the South City Storage Company. After verifying her identity, the staff led her to a medium-sized storage unit. The moment the door opened, Olivia felt suffocated. Her clothes, jewelry, books, even her collected artworks, all neatly packed here. Mark hadn't discarded or damaged anything, but this kind of almost cold thoughtfulness made Olivia feel more uneasy. She tremblingly dialed Ethan's number. "I need you." Olivia's voice was tearful. "Mark has thrown me out, and I have nowhere to go now." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. Ethan wasn't completely heartless, but he wasn't sincerely in love with Olivia either. She was a valuable contact for him, someone who could provide industry resources. Now, this relationship became complicated. "I'm sorry to hear that," Ethan finally said, "but I'm in Los Angeles now, with an important client project that can't be postponed." "Then I'll come to you," Olivia said eagerly. "I'll book a flight now." "Olivia, calm down." Ethan's tone became distant. "We both need some space to think. This relationship has developed too quickly. Maybe you should find a hotel to stay in first and sort out your thoughts." Olivia couldn't believe her ears. "What are you saying? We just spent a month on vacation together." "That was a vacation mentality, Olivia," Ethan said coldly. "Real life is another matter. I never promised any long-term relationship. I thought we both understood that." After the call ended, Olivia felt unprecedented loneliness and panic. She booked a mid-range hotel and forced herself to calm down and think about the next step. She couldn't accept that her life had been turned upside down in just a few weeks. What was even harder to accept was that both men, Mark and Ethan, had rejected her, plunging her into unprecedented insecurity. The next day, Olivia returned to the company, hoping to temporarily shift her focus to work. However, she quickly found the situation worse than imagined. "The board is very dissatisfied with your sudden long vacation," her boss Richard said coldly, "especially during the critical period before the quarterly marketing plan release. Several important clients have expressed dissatisfaction and requested a change of contact person." "I can explain," Olivia defended. "I had a family emergency. As far as I know, your husband came a few days ago to change his health insurance. He looked fine, showing no signs of any emergency." Richard's gaze was sharp. "Olivia, the company needs trustworthy managers. We have decided to temporarily adjust your position and responsibilities." Olivia walked out of the office feeling dizzy. Her position was downgraded, meaning a significant reduction in income, and she had just paid for a hotel and upcoming rent expenses. Even more humiliating was that her colleagues in the office looked at her with curiosity and inquiry. Evidently, her private life had become the focus of office gossip. Olivia was never one to easily give up. She began texting Ethan, hoping to regain his attention and support. Initially, Ethan would occasionally reply, but always vague, never promising any actual help. As time passed, his replies became fewer and fewer, eventually disappearing completely. Meanwhile, Mark received a message from the lawyer that the divorce proceedings had begun. California is a no-fault divorce state, meaning he didn't need to prove Olivia's infidelity. Property division would follow state law, and given the short marriage duration and comparable professional incomes of both parties, the court would likely rule that each party keeps their own income and personal property. Mark's new apartment was small but cozy, his work remained stable, and his friends provided support. Weekend hiking and photography helped him regain some inner balance. He began to re-engage with his hobbies, even joining a photography club and meeting some new friends. Faced with this situation, many people might sink into depression, but Mark chose to look ahead. This didn't mean he didn't have painful moments. Sometimes, when lying in bed alone, he would still feel an unbearable heartache. But he knew this pain would eventually pass, and self-respect and rebuilding life were more important. "You know what?" During a weekend gathering, Jacob said to Mark, "I really admire how you've handled yourself these past few months. If it were me, I might have collapsed long ago." Mark gave a bitter smile. "I almost did collapse, but I realized that letting myself dwell in pain only gives more power to those who betrayed me. I choose to respect myself. It's the only way out." Nathan raised his beer glass. "To a new life. To a new life." Everyone responded in unison. At the same time, Olivia's situation was worsening. She was forced to accept a transfer opportunity offered by the company, moving to the Sacramento branch. This meant lower living costs, but also a stagnation in career development. Her colleagues' attitudes were cold and distant. Clearly, her reputation had been affected. Olivia still couldn't accept reality. She tried to contact Mark multiple times, hoping to talk face-to-face, but Mark consistently refused. She tried to send messages through mutual friends, only to find most friends had taken Mark's side. You betrayed him, Olivia, her once close friend Lisa said frankly. And you actually plan to go back and continue this so-called open marriage? Did you really think Mark would accept that? I didn't betray him, Olivia stubbornly defended. I just needed more space and understanding. Mark was too conservative and traditional. Lisa shook her head. You know that's not true. Mark always respected your career and personal space. You're just making excuses for your behavior. This conversation made Olivia even more resentful. In her view, everyone stood against her. No one truly understood her needs and feelings. One evening, Olivia was drinking alone in her Sacramento apartment when she inadvertently came across Ethan's social media update. In the photo, Ethan was chatting cheerfully with a marketing director from a famous jewelry brand, location tagged as Miami. The date of the photo was exactly when Ethan told her he was on a business trip in Los Angeles. Anger and jealousy intertwined. Olivia began searching for more information about Ethan. She discovered that Ethan's Instagram was full of photos with various fashion industry figures, many in intimate poses. More shocking to her was that several photos were taken during their passionate love period. Just as Olivia was feeling desperate about her situation, she received an anonymous email containing multiple photos of Ethan with different women, spanning the entire period of their relationship, even including their vacation in Spain. The sender claimed to be another victim of Ethan who discovered Olivia's existence while investigating Ethan's background. Ethan is a repeat offender, the email wrote. He specifically looks for professionally successful but maritally dissatisfied women, exploiting their vulnerability and vanity. Be careful. He might still contact you for money or to use your professional resources. Olivia was thunderstruck. She recalled the time spent with Ethan and suddenly realized that Ethan did often inquire about her work and connections and repeatedly borrowed her company credit card for shared expenses. She checked her credit card statements and found that Ethan had actually used her card multiple times without her knowledge. Anger and humiliation drove Olivia to report to the police. The investigation revealed that Ethan was suspected of multiple fraud cases, with victims across several states. His methods were all similar, approaching successful career women, using their resources and connections, then quietly leaving after extracting enough value. Ethan was eventually arrested in Las Vegas, facing multiple fraud and theft charges. The investigation showed he wasn't simply a con man, but a psychologically complex character. He did possess professional skills and knowledge, but chose to use these advantages for fraud. During interrogation, he insisted he only borrowed these resources and had no real criminal intent. The media reported this case, describing Ethan as a marital affair fraudster, and mentioned one of the victims as Olivia, a marketing executive from San Francisco. Olivia's photo was blurred, but her identity wasn't a secret in the industry. This was a fatal blow to Olivia's career. Her new boss tactfully indicated that the company didn't want to be associated with such negative news. Olivia was eventually forced to resign, accepting a position offered by a much smaller company, with a salary only half of what she had before. On social media, Olivia became the object of merciless mockery. Many viewed her experience as karma, a punishment for her betrayal of marriage. Someone even created internet memes based on her, further deepening her sense of humiliation. The divorce proceedings unexpectedly accelerated after Ethan's arrest. Under financial pressure, Olivia had to give up attempts to claim more property and agreed to Mark's terms. At the final mediation meeting, Mark and Olivia looked into each other's eyes. "I could have loved you for a lifetime," Mark said calmly. This was the first time he had spoken directly to Olivia in months. "But you chose to betray my trust and then expected me to accept your terms. I will never forgive this kind of selfishness and hurt." Olivia hadn't fully recognized her mistakes. Even at this moment, she still felt Mark's reaction was too extreme. She saw herself as a victim too, deceived by Ethan, abandoned by colleagues and friends, humiliated by society. But she knew that arguing now would only make things worse. "I hope you can understand my position," Olivia said, trying to maintain dignity. "The problems between us aren't simply right or wrong. We both have responsibility." Mark shook his head. "No, Olivia, this time it's not our problem. This was your unilateral decision and behavior. I've accepted this reality, and I hope you can too. I wish you good luck in the future, but it will be a future without me. After completing the divorce formalities, Olivia felt a strange relief, but also deep loss. She returned to her small apartment in Sacramento, facing the uncertainty of the future alone. A year passed. Mark's life gradually got back on track. He received a promotion at work, becoming a technical lead responsible for an innovation project. His photography was exhibited in several local exhibitions, gaining some attention. He made new friends and occasionally dated, though not yet ready to commit to a serious relationship. His new apartment was fully furnished according to his preferences, with walls decorated with landscape photos he took during hiking trips. Each photo represented a milestone in his life journey, a moment of growth. On weekends, he often hiked or biked with friends, exploring the beautiful scenery of the Bay Area. Sometimes, he would sit alone on a bench near the Golden Gate Bridge, watching the sunset, reflecting on the past year. The pain had lessened, but the imprint left by that experience remained. He learned to value honesty and trust more, and also became more aware of his own worth and boundaries. At a photography exhibition, Mark met an interior designer named Emma. They slowly built a friendship, occasionally having coffee or attending art events together. Mark maintained an open but cautious attitude toward this relationship, not rushing to define it or repeating past mistakes. Olivia continued working at the small company in Sacramento, renting a single apartment in an ordinary community. Her social circle had significantly shrunk, and her career prospects were dim. In the new environment, she tried to reconstruct her image, but the shadows of the past were always present. Sometimes, Olivia would dream of that sunny apartment and the once simple yet genuine married life. Upon waking, the empty bed reminded her that all this was of her own making, but she still couldn't fully accept her responsibility. In her heart, Mark remained the person who wasn't open-minded enough, who couldn't understand her needs, while she was the victim of circumstances and others. This mindset hindered her growth and recovery. She tried dating, but each relationship quickly ended due to her distrust and need for control. She couldn't trust anyone anymore, nor could she give others genuine feelings. Ethan was paroled after serving 1 year, but his fraud history had become public record, ending his marketing consultant career completely. He was forced to accept low-paying jobs, far from the fashion and luxury industries. More ironically, a fellow inmate he met in prison found him after release, claiming to collaborate on a business opportunity, ultimately swindling Ethan of his remaining savings and money sent by his family. Ethan tried multiple times to contact Olivia, hoping to use her connections to return to the industry, but was rejected each time. Finally, when he desperately sent her a message, the phone screen only displayed an automatic reply. "This number has been deactivated." On a cold winter afternoon, Mark met with Emma in a San Francisco cafe. They discussed a possible collaboration project, combining Mark's photography with Emma's interior design. During a break in the conversation, Mark unintentionally saw a news item. Ethan had been arrested again for fraud, this time for deceiving a recently widowed wealthy woman. The article mentioned that investigators found Ethan's whereabouts through key information from a former victim, Olivia. "Are you okay?" Emma noticed the change in Mark's expression and asked with concern. Mark put down his phone and looked out the window. Rain slid down the glass, blurring the outside world. He no longer felt anger or pain, only a faint sense of relief. "I'm fine," Mark said sincerely. "This is just the ending of an old story. Sometimes life gives you unexpected turns, but in the end, truth and justice always appear in their own way." Emma smiled gently. "Sounds very philosophical." "Maybe," Mark smiled too, "but more experience. Anyway, this is already in the past." He picked up his camera and captured the city scene washed by rain outside the window. This photo would eventually hang on his wall, not as a reminder of pain, but as a symbol of growth and rebirth. The next day, Mark received an unexpected package. Inside was a handwritten note and a watch he had once given to Olivia. The note had only a few brief lines. "I cannot truly apologize, because I'm still not sure who was right or wrong. But I know this watch should return to its original owner. Wishing you happiness, Olivia." Looking at this watch that once carried love and hope, Mark felt a complex emotion surge in his heart. He put the watch and note in a drawer, closed it, then picked up his camera ready to go out. Today was a sunny day. The spring flowers in Golden Gate Park were in full bloom, waiting to be captured in his lens. Meanwhile, in Sacramento, Olivia sat on a park bench, watching children playing in the distance. After sending that package, she felt a strange peace. She knew there would be no reconciliation or forgiveness between her and Mark. That relationship was over, like a closed book. But at least, she had made a symbolic closure. She looked at her watch. It was time for an interview. It was a position at a small marketing company. The salary wasn't high, but it might be a chance to start over. She took a deep breath and stood up. The road ahead was still long, but she had no choice but to continue forward. If this story resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content. We look forward to seeing you in our next story.